Okay.
You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. As we kind of on our
Mac, come on.
Yes, sir. What's going on? Hold on a second, my friend. Yes, sir. Happy days are here again, Jack. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, 8 to 10 a.m. Wednesday through Sunday. You can see us on our Facebook. Our Facebook shows on Mac Sports and Northeast Streaming Sports Network, with our platforms also on Twitter and Instagram. Like, follow, comment, share, and subscribe when possible. Check out the website on macandjacksports.com. Call Max Insiders for information on weekly guest articles, team public relations updates, a list of shows on Northeast Streaming Sports, our great sponsors with links to their products and services. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack, legendary boxing writer and former president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, bringing your national sports with special focus on Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, Mac. Happy days are here again for who? Which team are you referring to? I'm guessing the Buffalo Bills. Is that what you mean?
Yes, sir. I mean, Jack, they're finally headed to the championship after all these years, back since the Super Bowl teams that made it there. So happy days are here for our only local left, Jack, the Buffalo Bills. So congratulations to them. Congratulations to Green Bay. And before we get to all that, Jack, I want to go over quickly before we get heavy into our football. A lot of the sports updates that happened yesterday. NBA, the Spurs 103, the Rockets 91, and the Nets with James Harden debut with a 30-point triple-double, and Kevin Durant with 42 points, breezed by the Magic 122 to 105, by the Raptors, I should say. 106 Hornets. Sorry, I'm all messed up this morning, Jack. Not enough sleep. Raptors 116, Hornets 113. The Grizzlies beat the 76ers, Jack, and the 76ers committed 23 turnovers. So that's the reason why they lost.
Joel Embiid was out too, so that's a reason as well.
Very true, too. But I think without the 23 turnovers, they still would have beaten them. Pistons 120 to Heat 100. Portland 112, the Hawks 106. In the NHL, Jack, Toronto beat the Senators 3-2. The Red Wings 4, the Hurricanes 2. Predators 5, the Blue Jackets 2. The Wild 4, the Kings 3. The Flames 3-0 over the Canucks. And the Golden Knights 2-1 over the Ducks. So that's your sports update for today, folks, before we get heavy into our football. And, Jack, I was watching both games. It just looked like Green Bay got off to a fast start. The Rams really just couldn't catch them. I mean, the Rams played well all year. They're a solid team. It looked like Aaron Donald was not playing 100%. And, of course, their quarterback has a broken left hand. But the Rams tried to make a game of it. But, again, Green Bay jumped out to a quick lead and just kept on going, Jack.
Well, let me open up with the excuses from someone who picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl in the beginning of the year. I need an excuse. I don't want to say I missed it. I wasn't knowledgeable enough. Cooper Kupp, the great wide receiver, was out. Aaron Donald, the biggest force, on their team in defense, the biggest force in the NFL, I can argue, had bad ribs. He wasn't himself. But when you get past all the excuses, Aaron Rodgers is phenomenal. Aaron Rodgers had an answer for everything the Rams did, and it looked like it was going to be a blowout. The Rams hung around. They got it to within 7. They stopped Green Bay, and Jared Goff didn't do a bad job as the Ram quarterback trying to manage a game, and they were clawing a bit, trying to get back in. Mick Akers, the Ram running back, the Packer defense had a hard time stopping them. But when all was said and done, Aaron Rodgers had an answer no matter what. It was like he was teasing the Rams. They'd get close, they would pull away. But let's not forget the Packer front four who put a lot of effective pressure, on Jared Goff. And the Packers I'm going to tell you, they're going to be hard to beat in the NFC Championship game, be it the Saints or the Buccaneers.
Well, Jack, I don't think Aaron Rodgers played an outstanding game, not MVP level that he used to. Aaron Jones ran for 90 yards, and the running game was working well. And as you said, the defense to me was really the story. The Rams could not get that running game going. And without the running game, there's no play-action pass for Goff. And him being with a one hand, of course, affected him. But I really think that the story of the game is that Packer defense, who a lot of people thought was the weak link in their team. And as you said, not only they put pressure on them, they pretty much stopped the Rams' running attack. They kept them in check. So I really believe the Green Bay defense needs a lot of congratulations today.
They did, but when the Rams scored a late touchdown to cut the lead to 16-10, with about 40 seconds left in the first half,
right?
You figure that's how they're going to go into the locker room. They kick off to Green Bay, and Green Bay doesn't have enough time to get into field goal range, you would think. But Aaron Rodgers gets them into field goal range. And They make it 19-10, and then the Packers have the first possession of the second half, and they get a touchdown. That's what I mean. The Rams would get close again, cut it to 7. Then Aaron Rodgers got, the final touchdown, and the margin was 14 points. But you got the feeling that the Rams, even though they were hanging around, they were never a serious threat to win this game.
I definitely agree with that. And the start of that second half, too, Aaron Jones broke that 60-yard run.
Right.
So, congratulations to Green Bay. We'll see what happens, to them in the championship. Buffalo, I saw the whole first half, Jack, 3-3. The Ravens kicker bangs the football off the upright twice, missing field goals. Then Buffalo kind of
Justin Tucker, yeah.
And Buffalo kind of put it away in the second half. They didn't. I don't even think they threw did one running play in the first half. It was all passing, and then they started mixing it up in the second half with the run and the pass.
Well, let me Mac.
Yeah. So it begs the question here, and the defense of the Buffalo Bills was outstanding. Again, here's the defense stepping it up, shutting down Jackson, and they sold out to shut down Jackson yesterday. Jack, they held him in check. He had one maybe big run, but for the most part, on the options, they were hitting him every chance they got. They were hitting this guy, and again, it goes to the thought: is Jackson really a quarterback that can take you to Super Bowl and win it? And what I mean by that is he's a great running back. And you brought up a point a while ago. Imagine if Eric Dickerson could throw the ball. Well, the thing is with something like that, Jack, their tendency is when the first read is gone, they take off. That's their strength. And they're not like an Aaron Rodgers where they survey the field and they can come to the second, third option, a lot like Josh Allen has done this year, and that's why he's improved so much. And I think that's why the Ravens started out this year trying to have Jackson be more of a pocket quarterback, which didn't work out because his strength, of course, is running the football. So Anthony Cervino brought this up once. What has Lamar Jackson really won, Jack? Every time he's gone to the playoffs, he's lost. And I don't know if it's because of the style or the scheme of the Ravens, or it's just because Lamar Jackson, when the first read isn't there, he's going to run with the ball because he feels he could pick up that first down.
Mac, he's been in the league for 3 years. His first playoff game he played, and he came off the bench for Joe Flacco and actually rallied his team, and they lost the game. Last year, they lost to the Titans the first game of the playoffs. He didn't play that bad. The Titans were kind of under Mike Vrabel on this magical run. This year, they beat the Titans last week in the rematch, so let's not forget that. Yesterday, the 2 misses by Justin Tucker that hit the uprights. Imagine they'd gone in. That would have changed the complex of the game a bit. The pick six, though,
Maybe.
that hurt.
I mean, that
was returned by Teron Johnson for 101 yards. That hurt badly. You know what? I was thinking about this morning, Mac. At the end of the day, there's only one team standing in the NFL, the team that wins the Super Bowl. They're the only team we're not criticizing. Everyone else we're criticizing. All the teams that are left now, Mac. I can guarantee you, when these games are finished, you, I, and a bunch of other people are going to question the quarterbacks. Is Brady too old? Should Breeze now retire? Is Baker Mayfield overrated? Yeah, Patrick Mahomes just won Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, we might say, if they don't win it. He's only won 1 Super Bowl. Is he really an all-time great? We're going to question every single quarterback except the one that wins the Super Bowl this year.
Well, I agree with most of what you're saying, but there's something to be said that, when you're playing in the NFL, of course, during the regular season, it counts a lot, Jack. We know that it counts more than most leagues. I mean, you've got to win to get to the playoffs. But when you get to that playoff, it's a different level, Jack. It's not the same. You're hitting to almost hurt somebody. I mean, you're so intense, and you got everybody flying to the ball. And I give the Buffalo Bills defense tons of credit. They totally sold out on Jackson. He was not going to beat them running the ball. He was not going to do that, win or lose. That was their game plan. Great game plan.
Well, keep this in mind, Lamar Jackson. He suffered a concussion late in the third period. So let's say he hadn't gotten hurt. He'd been in there. Who could tell what may have happened? He would have represented a major threat with his legs to the Bills the rest of the way. So had Jackson not gotten hurt and Justin Tucker had made those field goals, who knows how it would have came out, really.
Well, Jack, it would have been 17-9, in my opinion, because Jackson was ineffective the whole game. He was ineffective.
Well, he would have had a full quarter plus to go.
Yeah,
maybe they score. Maybe they make a 2-point conversion. I mean, who could tell? Listen, we're used to the classic NFL quarterback, especially you, Mac. You're old school. You like the Johnny Unitas type, stays in the pocket, passes effectively, who could run once in a while. But running shouldn't be the main weapon to your way of thinking. It should be passing. That's how you get the ball down the field. Lamar Jackson's different. I mean, it's hard to be a pocket passer when you're such a great runner.
Agreed.
And that's what he is. And
Agreed.
Look how far he's taken the Ravens the last couple of years in the regular season.
Let me tell you, when you got that level of a team that can make the playoffs, the last 3 years in a row, you've got to see some kind of a progress, and there hasn't been yet in the Ravens scheme. There hasn't been, and leads to a bigger question. And we've talked about this before. You just mentioned it. I'm old school. I don't think I'm old school, Jack. I think I'm football savvy. Listen, every running quarterback, and you can name them all, a pure running quarterback. You can go back to Joe Kapp, who was primarily a great running quarterback. He did pass, but he was more effective with his legs. You can go to Michael Vick. You can go to Cam Newton, who made it to the Super Bowl. You can go to Kyle Murray this year, and you can go to Tim Tebow, who came into the league at a very lesser extent.
Tim Tebow, man.
Well, I'm saying a very lesser extent. I'm just putting the topic in. And now with Lamar Jackson, listen, what wins still is a pocket quarterback who sees the field, has a running back. And I'm going to tell you the biggest thing, Jack, when you try to run for a touchdown like Michael Vick did, Not saying he wasn't great. Just like RG3 did, got hurt, gone. Just like Cam Newton did. Now he's a shadow of what he was. And Murray got hurt this year trying to run for touchdowns. I mean, we're not talking about running and sliding or trying to get out of bounds, extending the play somewhat like Russell Wilson does, sliding. The rules are there to protect you now, Jack. They weren't there before they could knock the hell out of you. So they're there now, but these guys want to score touchdowns like a running back. And we know running backs average expectancy in the NFL is about 4 years. So when these quarterbacks that are talented like Jackson, like RG3 was, like Murray is, and they're going to try to run for touchdowns every time they touch the ball, they're in for a long haul, Jack. And I still don't think, until I'm proven wrong, that a running quarterback who runs second, first read takes off after the first read's not there, or maybe a quick look off to the tight end or outlet. And if he's covered, he's gone. He's so worried and so confident. He's so worried about throwing the ball, and he's so confident in his legs that it takes away from the whole team. And I think, and as you see with the national sports networks, they love to put that, that amazing player, that unbelievable athlete onto the screen. What's he going to do? It's not what he's going to do. It's what the team's going to do, Jack, as Buffalo showed us, as Green Bay showed us. It's the team that wins the games. It's not that superstar. So until I'm proven wrong that a running quarterback who runs almost second or third in his reads wins a Super Bowl, I won't believe it will happen, Jack.
Mac, the bottom line is this. Lamar Jackson has been in the league for 3 years. His first year with the Ravens, he was the backup. He was the fifth quarterback taken in the draft behind Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and Josh Rosen. He was the fifth guy taken. They weren't sure whether he was even going to start for them. They weren't even sure whether he was the heir apparent. Joe Flacco was getting on a little bit, and he took over for Joe Flacco in the playoff game. And he actually rallied the Ravens as a rookie. His second year, he was the MVP of the league. If that's not being established, I don't know what is. He was the league's MVP, and this is his third year in the league. But listen, the Ravens are gonna have to live with Lamar Jackson one way or the other. They draft very low. It would be ludicrous for them to try to make some type of deal. Unless by some fluke a Deshaun Watson could fall into their lap, which is never going to happen. You stick with Lamar Jackson. Maybe he can, win these big games running. He won a big game last week with his legs, 2 against Tennessee. Let's not forget that. The weather conditions yesterday. The weather conditions was such, it wasn't conducive to passing. And that may have played a role in their great kicker, Justin Tucker, one of the most accurate kickers in NFL history, hitting the goalpost twice.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of wonder these scouting reports on the wind. They tell you something, but the wind could change minute to minute.
Sure.
You talk about the mental aspects of the game. No one appreciates the mental aspects of what a kicker has to go through. Imagine the wind swirling and him having to think, do I kick it a little more to the left? Do I kick it a little more to the right? And then as it turns out, the moment he kicks it, Mac, the wind could calm down. But there's no way of him knowing. Could you imagine the mental pressure on these guys? And that may have gotten in Justin, Tucker's head, because the look on his face, because he's nearly automatic, and to hit the post, twice.
Well, getting back to what I was talking about with the running quarterbacks, Jack. Last year, Josh Allen was very inaccurate. Well, his first couple of years, very inaccurate, all right? He was like 50%, which is very low for a quarterback, and he was primarily a runner. They designed plays to run the ball with him, and he has a big arm. He had a big arm. He could throw the ball 80 yards in the field, no problem. But he was inaccurate. This year, in the offseason, he worked on his accuracy, 100%. And it shows up now. It shows that he can pass first, and he could read the different receivers first, and then he still has those legs. So this is all I'm saying, Jack, is that to me, in my opinion, and for what it's worth, until I'm shown that a running quarterback can take a team to the Super Bowl and win it, you cannot convince me that that's better and that's newer and that's brighter in the NFL. I don't care what any NFL network says. Until that's done. Go ahead.
Mac, the quarterback run of the day yesterday was Aaron Rodgers. Okay, he had a third down and short, and he ran like a little bootleg looking to pass, and no one was open, and he faked the pass. And I forgot the Ram defender. The Ram defender ran up to tackle him, but when Aaron Rodgers faked the pass, the Ram defender jumped up in the air to block the pass. And it was like in basketball, you put a fake on a guy, he jumps up to block it. And he's in the air, and then you just shoot right by him. And Aaron Rodgers went just right by him and ran into the end zone. And you wouldn't expect that from Aaron Rodgers. It was kind of cool, the way he faked out the defender.
Well, listen, Aaron is a very, very wily veteran, and he can play backyard football with the best of them. So I want to get into another, looking at the game.
Mac, just one thing. If we were playing two-hand touch and we could have all the quarterbacks in the NFL on our team, Aaron Rodgers would be your guy for the two-hand touch game, right?
No doubt. Elusive, great arm, and very, very, very smart. So I want to get to broaden out the discussion a little bit more. And we've talked about this before, and I think it's come home at least yesterday. Strategy versus talent, Jack. The system versus talent. And, you hear a lot of people saying, like you just heard me with Jackson, well, he's got, he's a running quarterback. He'll never win. But talent-wise, Jackson is one of the most talented football players, period, in the league. You would agree with that, right?
Yeah, well, obviously. Yeah, he is.
And I think everyone that makes the NFL level has talent. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they're drafted because they were so good in college, they were so good in high school. They're all stars. It's just different levels of stardom, if you know what I mean. Some are a little bit even higher when they get to the NFL. But they're all got talent. They're all stars. They're all some of the best conditioned people in the world, really. So when I look at games, Jack, when I'm watching the games, I'm not looking and see what Aaron Rodgers does necessarily because I know what he's going to do. I don't really look to see, what Baker Mayfield or any of the quarterbacks are doing. I'm watching what they're doing within that scheme or what they're doing with that strategy. They're coming in, they have a game plan. They're working a game plan. Why is it working? Why isn't it working? And we've talked about the Buffalo Bills defense this year, saying they're not as good as they were 3 years ago, or 2 years ago. The defensive coach left or whatever happened there, where they've taken a step back. Yesterday, that looked like the Buffalo Bills of old, Jack. That looked like the old Buffalo Bills. And as I mentioned, they were talking to the defensive coordinator before the game, and the person reported
Leslie Frazier, I think.
Yeah, their scheme was to sell out on Jackson. They didn't believe Jackson could beat him throwing the ball. They didn't believe that, and that's what they did. And that Buffalo Bill defense that we've been saying, they're not as good as they were, a couple of years ago, looked tremendous. And when you have a scheme and strategy, when you're looking at game film or you're looking at tendencies of the team, and you're watching what kind of option that Jackson is running, and you're keeping people on Jackson and saying, well, you're not going to hand the ball off. You want to make that big play, Jamal. And it worked, Jack. I mean, they were throwing him for losses. He had one good run, but for the most part, they had him so frustrated that he wasn't even making the right reads anymore. And
let me tell you something, Mac. Vince Lombardi had a saying, fatigue makes cowards of us all. I have a saying, windy conditions make mediocre players of all. Yeah. And it was you're not considering the elements yesterday in Buffalo. You're not considering the weather elements. Forget the cold. Football players have to play in all type of conditions, hot, warm, whatever. But there's no way you can really fully adjust to very windy conditions. And what's affected the most in windy conditions? The ball being in the air, okay? Outside of field goal kicking, passing the ball in the air. I mentioned on yesterday's show, the year after the Jets won the Super Bowl, I went to the Jet-Kansas City playoff game at Shea Stadium. Shea Stadium, for those who don't know or don't remember, was an open-ended stadium. The open part of the stadium, Joe Namath one of the best arms of all time, the ball kept dying in the wind. And you got the feeling yesterday Lamar Jackson was thinking, it's going to be really hard to do anything but a short passing game. So he's going to have to try to beat them with their legs. I mean, and it's also well known with Lamar Jackson. Listen, it doesn't take a genius to figure out. You'd rather have him pass the ball because you give him an opening, he's going to beat you with his legs. So you have to contain him first and foremost that way that he can't run wild on you. So it's not a genius strategy that the Bills came up with to contain him. It's the same way with LeBron James in basketball.
Listen,
James to shoot
Jack,
the ball because you can't stop him driving to the basket.
If it's not such a big deal, then why other teams couldn't do it, Jack? So it was a big deal. So
other teams did it. He slumped during the year.
I didn't see the Ravens only scoring 3 points on a team besides Buffalo, Jack. If you could tell me one, let me know.
It was the conditions yesterday.
Jack, the conditions are the same for the Buffalo.
Josh Allen didn't exactly light it up yesterday.
But he made some key throws, Jack. And he stood up.
But he didn't have a consistently good game. The Raven defense kept him in check, in part because of the weather conditions.
Listen, Jack, that's part of what goes into the strategy of the game, Jack. That's taken in consideration. It's the same thing with the Green Bay Packers, Jack. Green Bay came in, they were going to run the ball. They were going to establish the run, which they did. And they used play-action pass for Aaron Rodgers because they knew that rush could get to Aaron. Very smart. The defense was all over the Rams' running game. They knew that the Rams needed the play action for Goff to work. And what I'm saying, Jack, is I'm not looking at the ball going in the air so much. I understand when that affects the game. I know I've thrown the ball in the wind. I'm saying that there's not enough credit given to a scheme. There's more credit right now given to Aaron Rodgers when the defense of the Green Bay Packers pretty much checked down the Rams' hurt offense. There's a lot of you will have a lot of press going to Josh Allen when it was the Buffalo Bill defense that really won that game. And this is all
they put a lot of pressure on Lamar Jackson as well. They would force him to run at times, even though supposedly they wanted him to beat them with his arm if he could do it. Okay?
Right.
But they also got a lot of pressure on him as well.
Right, sure. Because you're in third, Jack, and 18 yards to get a first down. You know, for the 50, it's better 50-50 that he's going to throw the ball, Jack, so you can pin your ears back. All I'm saying is there's not enough credit and given to schemes and strategy as there is to the superstar players. And it's a shame because this game is so intricate and so great. What has to happen for that game plan to come together and for that scheme to come together? And a lot of times it doesn't matter what talent you have. It matters.
Mac, the difference between winning and losing is so small. Let's say Justin Tucker makes both field goals that hit the posts. Now this Buffalo would have been down 10-9 right before the pick six. The play calling very well might have been different, knowing that a field goal would put the Ravens ahead. So Lamar Jackson would have been a little less likely to throw the ball in that situation. And if he didn't and there wasn't an interception, the Ravens probably go up 12-10 at that point at the end of the third period.
You're
it's
saying
all hypothetical. I know.
I'm saying what happened, Jack. I'm not saying what if. I mean, that's what happened. The game's over. That's what happened. I mean, anything could happen, Jack. I mean, Josh Allen could have got hurt. I mean, he could have got intercepted 3 times if something was different. I'm saying what happened during that game, a lot more credit should be given to the team aspect of the game when a defense shuts down somebody like Lamar Jackson and when a Green Bay defense puts all that pressure on the running game of the Rams. There should be a lot of credit going there, and it doesn't. And that's a shame because it is such a great game.
But the disappointment on Lamar Jackson, look, he's not as good as Patrick Mahomes. He's not as good as Aaron Rodgers. He's not as good as Deshaun Watson. But he's still one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. If you look around, you can make that argument. Well,
I mean, listen, I'm not saying Lamar Jackson is no good. I'm not saying that, Jack. That's not what the whole thing is about. What I'm saying is that Lamar Jackson has to become more of a complete quarterback for the Ravens to be more successful. Because what the Bills showed everybody again is if you stop him from running, you'll stop the Ravens. So that's all I'm saying, Jack. So anyway.
Yeah, okay, listen, well, it's obvious, but a guy who was league MVP last year had to be doing something right to become a league MVP. He didn't just do it with his legs.
For the most part, he did, Jack. For the most part, he did. He's an electric, talented player who, if he can become a complete quarterback, it takes that next step. And that's all. Patrick Mahomes is already at that step. Aaron Rodgers is already at that step.
I don't think that's ever going to be because Lamar Jackson is never going to be a Patrick Mahomes. He's never going to be an Aaron Rodgers type. He's not going to be a Deshaun Watson type. It's just not, it's just the style of play.
They said that about Josh Allen last year, 2 years ago, too, Jack. And look at what happened. He became very accurate this year, throwing for a lot of yards. A lot of people are comparing him right now to Aaron Rodgers and that. And I don't know if that comparison is
I don't
fair.
know about a lot of people comparing him to Aaron Rodgers, but he's having a magical year thus far.
Definitely. So anyway, Jack. So coming up next, we should have Anthony Cervino chime in, and he's scheduled to come in. He's not in yet. So what I'm gonna do, Jack, is we're gonna switch over, and I'm gonna ask.
Trivia. I mean, I could call an audible and say I wasn't ready for trivia.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I guess it was about to come on. I've got to brace myself mentally. I hate the Saturday trivia questions with Doc because you're always giving me 1897 baseball stuff. Right.
Yeah. So anyway, Jack, this has nothing to do with football. I just threw it in there because I love just doing trivia questions about sports in general. So this is about basketball, Jack. Who was the first NBA MVP of law for 1955, 1956?
55, 56. I'm going to, wow. I'm thinking in terms of Dolph Shays, Cliff Hagan, Dolph Shays, man, oh man. Going back then, that was before the golden age of the NBA. I mean, the NBA wasn't even established. It was a minor league entity as far as major sports went at that time. Minor league entity. I'm thinking of the St. Louis Hawks back then. That's before the time of Russell and Chamberlain, before they came into the league. Could it have been George Mikan? Was George Mikan still around then?
It's not George Mikan.
No. That's what I'm saying. It's before the Big O and all those. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'll go with Dolph Shays.
It was a good guess, Jack. But the correct answer is Bob Pettit. He was
he was on the same team as Dolph Shays.
Yes, he was. In 55, 55,
okay.
56, he won. He came back and won it again in 1957, 58, Jack. So we do have the great Anthony Cervino backstage right now from Fantasy Football Face-Off. Great site over there, guys. Check it out. They do a great job with not only fantasy.
I got to look up to see whether Dolph Shays ever won it, though. When we're done with the show, I'm going to Google that.
That's a good idea, Jack. So we'll bring up Anthony. And as I said, they do a great job with not only fantasy, but breaking down football. And we got a lot of football to break down with Anthony today. So let's bring up Anthony Cervino. How you doing today, Anthony?
I'm doing awesome, guys. How are you?
Good morning.
Hanging in there. Me and Jack were deep into discussions about quarterbacks and stuff already. So we'll bring you in on that. Anthony, do you have
I just want his view before you
No. We'll get to it right after this. Anthony, go ahead and give us your best plays for anybody playing Fantasy Duel or the other big one that I can't remember right now.
Oh, it's FanDuel and DraftKings.
There you go.
They're the daily fantasy slates. We have 2 games to go today. So let's let me see what's available. And really, we're only down to 4 quarterbacks. We're in a limited player pool. So what you really want to hit is on players with a lower ownership percentage. With so many people in these bigger tournaments, we have Mahomes, Brady, Breeze, and Mayfield on the slate. If you wanted to almost, I don't want to say throw a curveball, but a guy like Taysom Hill. Because he can be more involved in the game plan in a tough matchup against Tampa Bay. We could see Sean Payton maybe using Taysom Hill a little bit more often, as we've seen at times this season. But really, the quarterback I like the most is Tom Brady today. He's going to be a player because he struggled so much against the Saints this year. I could see a lot of DFS players fading Tom Brady, and I like Tom Brady to have one of his better games of the year against the New Orleans Saints.
A lot of people feel that way. I don't know.
Is Taysom Hill playing because he has a bad knee? That's talk he might not play.
Let's see. What do I have here? Right now, he's questionable, and I don't think we're going to have a determination on that until right before the game.
Right,
but when you're setting your lineups, you have the option to change them up until kickoff.
Huh. Very good. Very good. So far as running backs, Anthony, who would you take today in today's games?
Nick Chubb. I love Nick Chubb. He's been hot and consistent down the stretch. I also like Kareem Hunt. He's at one of the lower price points at $4,800, and it's a revenge game going against his former team compared to paying maybe $65 for Chubb or $76 for Alvin Kamara. We don't know if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to play yet, but the Kansas City doesn't run the ball well. Leonard Fournette is going to get the start. He's another keeper back that I like.
Oh, excellent. And quickly, Anthony, on your receivers, I mean, you've got a lot of good receivers playing today. I'm not sure what the value is for each one, but I know there's a lot to pick from. That's for sure.
The 2 highest priced ones are obviously Tyreek Hill and Michael Thomas. But if you want to dig a little bit deeper, and this surprised me when I was doing my research, Jarvis Landry, since week 12, he's put up double-digit fantasy points in every game since week 12. And he struggled early on in the season. But for what you're paying for Jarvis Landry compared to the targets he's getting and his production, he's one of the bigger steals on the slate.
Wouldn't Sammy Watson, chief receiver, be great value because he's a real sleeper, really outstanding player?
Well, Watkins is out today. They ruled him out this week with his injury, and that's a
okay.
You would have been right because Sammy Watkins, his numbers in 5 games with the Chiefs in the playoffs, he averaged over 90 yards a game. And he is one of their unsung heroes in the past 2 postseasons. Yeah. And this is going to be a bigger loss than I think people are giving it credit for.
I agree with that. You brought up Landry. Do you think it's because that Baker Mayfield, that O.J. Beckham is out this year, that he's starting to flourish a little bit more at the end of the season?
I think it has a lot to do with it. And I like Odell Beckham Jr. But if he doesn't, I think with Odell, you need to be in a perfect situation, and it's not a perfect situation with Baker Mayfield. Right. Let's face it. And in that system with Kevin Stefanski, you see the way they run the football. There's just not enough targets to go around for both Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. And these 2 guys were best friends from college. I don't think that's the issue. I just think there's not enough. And if you don't, Odell's like Terrell Owens. If you don't get them touches early, they're done. They're mentally checked out by the second half.
I definitely agree with that too. And plus the tight ends in Cleveland aren't too bad either, Anthony. So I mean, to get that ball to everybody, especially somebody who is as talented as Odell, whether you like him or not, is very hard to do. So Anthony, we're going to talk a little bit about yesterday's games, and me and Jack talked about them a little bit. And they talk about the stars so much. I mean, that's the national coverage, right? You talk about Aaron Rodgers, you talk about Jamal Jackson, you talk about the quarterbacks, mainly some running backs. It's time to give other people a little bit of credit. I really believe both defenses for the winners played unbelievable. We were saying Buffalo is no longer, the defense they had 2 years ago. And the strategy to stop Jackson to me was brilliant. They sold out. They just went after him. And I think Green Bay's defense, we know that the quarterback was hurt. and they needed that play action pass to give them a little time. They didn't let them do that. They controlled the run for the most part. So I think the defenses in both games really stood up and took on the challenge, Anthony.
Yeah, let's start with the Green Bay game. This game played out almost exactly the way I projected it to. It was close at halftime, and eventually, just like we saw last week with Tampa Bay and Washington and the Saints and the Bears, the better offense was going to eventually emerge, and that's what we saw. Green Bay's defense, they played outstanding. They did give up production to Cam Akers, 18 carries, 90 yards, and a touchdown as a rusher. But where this defense really stepped up was with these good receivers on the Rams. The leading receiver for the Rams was Josh Reynolds, who played for the injured Cooper Kupp, 3 receptions for 65 yards.
Yeah.
And Jared Goff was throwing the ball well. It didn't even look like he was dealing with the thumb. I think Green Bay just pitched a perfect game.
I think it was Green Bay's pass rush, which really had a lot of pressure on Goff all game.
Yeah, they have one of the more underrated pass rushes, and they did that last offseason by bringing in Preston Smith from Washington and Zadarius Smith from the Baltimore Ravens, and they're very menacing. If they can get to your quarterback, and they got to Goff 4 times.
Yeah, very true. So Anthony, like we've talked about this before. I know you're not a critic of Jackson, but you say, what does he really want? And with the way the Ravens, the way their scheme is, if Jackson doesn't see the first or second check down, he takes off. And while it's dynamic and it's fun to watch, and they do win with that, as we see with Josh Allen, to me, you got to make that next step if you're going to be a real complete quarterback and move up one more level and take that team to the next level. Because if you're trying to run for a touchdown, every time you touch the ball, like Michael Vick did, Cam Newton did in the beginning, still does really, and even Kyler Murray, you're not only going to get hurt, but the teams are just going to key on that, and that's exactly what Buffalo did.
Lamar Jackson, and I'm critical of him, but I like Lamar Jackson a lot. I root for the Ravens. I always love their defense and the way they run their team and their organization as a whole. But I have a lot of questions about Lamar Jackson and this team in the second half. He had that one in week 12 he missed against Pittsburgh because of COVID, and then since week 13 they were on fire and they looked like they were peaking. But once you get into the playoffs, you're playing the best of the best 9 times out of 10. And what you do really well, they're going to take that away. Buffalo did that, and they had no answer. This is a 2-possession game. And the Baltimore Ravens, anytime they're down more than 1 possession, they're out. And I don't know if it's Lamar. I don't know if it's the fact that maybe they're too cocky in the front office and they think, well, we're just going to win our way. Well, you're not winning in the playoffs your way. You need to go get a wide receiver. Because if I'm another defense, let Lamar run all day. Keep him in front of you. Who's he going to throw the ball to?
Yeah, very true.
You don't have to play a nickel or dime defense against Baltimore. They have Mark Andrews, who's not a deep threat, very good tight end. He's not a deep threat. And they have Marquise Brown. Outside of that, Des Bryant's their best receiver.
Right. That's very true.
They need to go sign Juju Smith-Schuster, go get Odell. They need a legitimate number 1 wide receiver. Marquise Brown's a compliment. I think he's very good, but he's not a number 1 in this league, and the teams know that.
I don't know whether they have the capital to get Schuster, Beckham, but I don't think they need more drama. Okay, especially Lamar Jackson's a bit of a compelling personality because of the way he plays the game. And I don't think he needs a prima donna receiver there. I understand where you're coming from, but my thing is Lamar Jackson did win a playoff game a week ago, and he looked pretty good. And not long before that, he won that legendary, regular season game against the Cleveland Browns, and everyone was hailing him. And I think the conditions yesterday had something to do with it. It wasn't conducive for throwing, and I understand Lamar Jackson isn't a pure passer by any means, but he's only been in the league 3 years, and I just feel you could tweak Lamar Jackson and make him better, but he's what he is. You're not going to make him into something he's not. You're never going to make him into a pocket passer per se.
Yeah, but he also needs weapons. Like look at Aaron Rodgers. He has Devontae Adams. Outside of Devontae Adams and the running backs, Aaron Rodgers threw 48 touchdowns to guys. And Aaron Rodgers is going to elevate the wide receivers on his team. And really, like what you're saying, that's not Lamar Jackson's game. He's not going to elevate. He needs that good wide receiver to kind of elevate his game going.
It's a great point. I mean, you look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen with Diggs coming there. But I think Josh Allen worked really hard on the offseason on his mechanics. He became a little bit more accurate. And even in the wind conditions, he wasn't great. But they were bad wind conditions, causing the 2 missed field goals hitting the uprights for the Ravens. And maybe that would have changed the momentum. Maybe not. I don't know. I think it would have been 17-9 Buffalo. But anyway,
there were 2 things that stuck out in this game, and we heard the name on Buffalo's defense, Matt Milano, all night. So I decided I put some numbers together. In 12 games that Matt Milano has played, including these 2 playoff games, the Bills' defense averaged 18.6 points per game, and they're 12-0. In the 6 regular season games that he's missed, they let up 29.8 points per game, and we're 3-3.
Wow, that much of a dynamic player. Yeah, he is. So that's the last 2 games. We got Buffalo waiting for the winner, the Browns and the Chiefs. We got Green Bay waiting for the winner, the Saints and Tampa Bay. So let's go to the Chiefs and the Browns for a second, Anthony. And a lot of people aren't giving Browns a chance to win this game, and maybe rightfully so. But I think they can win this game. I think if they get that running game going like they can, and get Chubbs and Hunt involved early, out of the backfield, catching the ball, running with the ball, and it may open up the play action pass for Baker Mayfield. I think if they control the clock and they don't let KC get over the top. I don't care if they bring in 3 more defensive backs. They don't let them get over the top, and they have a chance at making KC run the ball. I would make them run the ball to win the game. And I think Cleveland has not a great shot, but I think they have a legitimate chance of beating the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, I think 10 points is way too much on the spread. I took the Browns to cover. I do give them a shot because what the Browns do really well running the football, that's the Chiefs' weakness on defense. And also Baker loves to throw to tight ends, and KC, that's the worst thing they do on defense is containing the tight end. On the other hand, it's the same thing. The Chiefs struggle to run the football, and that's what the Browns defense does really well. And the Browns struggle to stop the pass and the tight end, which is what the Chiefs do really well. So I think we're going to see a lot of points in this game. It's a 57-point over-under. I actually like it to go over. There's going to be a lot of points scored here. This is going to come down to Baker Mayfield. Eventually, Baker Mayfield's going to have to throw, and if he doesn't make any mistakes, I think they're going to be in it when it's all said and done.
I definitely agree with that.
But you got to remember, the Chiefs didn't play in 2 weeks.
That's true. They're going to be a little rusty, so you might be able to jump on them real quick.
Was it the emotional element? The emotional element, beating the Steelers in a sense was like the Browns Super Bowl, getting over the hump, making the playoffs. And can you ride that wave of emotion week after week after week? Because eventually you hit a wall.
The Giants
and the Chiefs are primed for this game. It's like the regular season was something that they were just marking time with, getting ready for the playoffs.
I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen the Giants go on their run in 2007, or I think they might have done it twice when they were dead in the water, and then Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning takes his team on a run. The thing that concerns me here is in the final 5 or 6 games of the regular season, the Chiefs won them all, but their biggest margin of winning was 6 points.
That's a concern. That's a red flag.
And they played bad team. 3 points to Atlanta. 3 points to the Saints, which is normal. 5 points to Miami, 6 points to Denver, 3 points to Tampa. You barely beat the Raiders. You almost lost to Carolina by 2. The last team they blew out was the Jets back in November 1st.
Very true. Yeah. Very true. So we turn to the Saints, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the 2 old gunslingers. You got one that might retire at the end of the season. One that probably won't retire, but he's looking to go to the Super Bowl with a new team. It's hard for me to to gauge this, Anthony, because the Saints beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers overwhelmingly the last time they played. And Tampa Bay has, man for man, they're probably, we like to say talented team, but man for man, they are one of the best teams in the league talent-wise. So have the Buccaneers finally got to the point where they're ready to explode, or is the Saints just going to do it to them again with the talent they have?
I'm worried. I like Tampa Bay to win this game, but I'm not going to say I'm not worried. I think the difference here is that when the Saints beat the Buccaneers in week 1, there was, with the unprecedented offseason, Tom Brady's first game in a new system after 20 years in New England. So they lost, but okay, you give them the pass there, and then the Saints blew them out back in right around week 9. That was the time of the year where this Tampa Bay team, they signed Antonio Brown, and he wasn't really an off-the-field distraction, but I think forcing him into the lineup, this Tom Brady and this team had to learn how to play differently. And also Tampa Bay had a late bye. Their bye was in week 13, and that's when teams make their adjustments, and they've come out of the bye. It looks more like a Tom Brady offense mixed with Bruce Arians instead of just a Bruce Arians dominant offense. So I think this is going to be a better and a different Tampa Bay team.
I'm not saying anything revealing here, but I think Alvin Kamara is the key because you can pass against Tampa Bay, and I can't see their secondary having a tremendous amount of success against New Orleans. But if they don't stop the run, Tampa Bay, it could be a long afternoon. And Alvin Kamara is the guy, So if they can't stop him, it's going to be tough for Tampa Bay today.
Alvin Kamara, in his career against Tampa, he's done a lot of damage, but he's never rushed for more than 62 yards or 68 yards in a game.
Right. So
he's gone over 84 yards receiving in about 3 or 4 games against him. So that, like you said, that's going to be the key. Is how are you going to contain Alvin Kamara?
And Thomas will be a big factor too. He's more healthy than he's been all year. And the Saints just have a way of hitting those holes and the receivers sitting down and coming across on crossing patterns. And, of course, I think that's Tampa's biggest weakness on defense. I mean, I think it's going to be a really good game, Anthony. I'm not sure who's going to win it. I'm not rooting for either one to win it. I'm just rooting for a real good game.
Yeah, I'm partial. I like Tom Brady.
Well, that's your Super Bowl pick, Anthony. Tampa Bay to go to the Super Bowl. Did you pick them to win it in the beginning of the year? Just go.
I think I picked him to win it. I was very overzealous on Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I know the feeling. I picked Kansas City. It didn't take much brain work to do that. So you always kind of like the team you pick to make you seem smart. But you know a lot more than we do, though. But we'll see.
Jack is not going to talk about his other Super Bowl pick because they looked terrible yesterday. So the Rams.
The Rams, yeah.
So anyway, Anthony, again, thank you for coming in. We love having you in to break down the games.
Absolutely.
Fantasy knowledge. And folks, go over to Fantasy Football Face-Off. Check them out. They have a tremendous site, great video, great talk, and they're there 6 days a week. So you can't miss them. Go over there and check them out. Thanks again for coming in, Anthony. We appreciate it every week.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good today.
Good stuff, Anthony.
So there you go. Jack Anthony Cervino stops in and gives us some little knowledge, not only in fantasy, but he also breaks down the games excellent. That's why we have him in there. He knows all the stats and what happens when players aren't in. And
exactly. But listen, I wanted to say something. There was great stuff by Anthony. I love hearing this stuff when he brings out the statistics. But I don't want to hear about Alvin Kamara only having X amount of yards in the past game against Tampa Bay. The playoffs here, it's completely new. You start with a clean slate.
Agreed.
And I don't want to say it's meaningless because it's great stuff that Anthony's giving us. But Alvin Kamara, really, if any one play outside of the quarterbacks is the key today, he's the guy. Because if Tampa Bay doesn't stop him and he's running wild, I mean, Tampa Bay's not winning this game.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, they've got to definitely have somebody that can deal with Alvin Kamara because that's their short game right there. I mean, that's
their weapon, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the screen game, all that. So 100% right. Jack, we're going to go in. We're going to take our official break now. We have Robert Butler with Sportscope coming up on the other side. Also, one of my favorite guests that come in every week, and we'll be talking about a lot of different things about the NFL and talking about the hirings, the firings, different team information. And we'll be right back after this, folks. Stay right with us.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner? Hey, honey, I'm making stew. Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma.
I love you too. Okay, about tasting this stew and telling me what you think.
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
That's the first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. This is our Sunday football show. Love having you aboard. I'm your host, Mac, with my co-host, the great Jack Hirsch, giving you all the sports we can on this fine Sunday. And, Jack, we had our great guest, Anthony Cervino, up just recently breaking down fantasy and breaking down some of the games. And we have coming up backstage right now one of my favorite guests that we have on Sunday, which is Robert Butler with Sports Scope. And, you know, we're going to get Robert's opinion a little bit on the games last night, too, before we hit the topics. You know, Robert does a great job over there at Sports Scope, guys. If you get a chance, go on over and check out his show. He's got Facebook. He's on Twitter. He's on a bunch of different platforms. So let's bring him up and let's talk to Robert and see what's going on. How you doing today, Robert?
Morning, guys. Rob, how you doing?
Good, how you doing, Rob? So I imagine you watched the playoff games at least somewhat yesterday, too. And what stood out for you about the two games, Green Bay, the winners, Green Bay and Buffalo?
Well, as far as Green Bay is concerned, I mean, they look like they're just playing at another level offensively. Ball's getting out of Aaron Rodgers' hand quickly. They seem to be a step ahead of the number one defense overall in the NFL. I couldn't say more. I did not think they would play that well, considering how well that the Rams were playing defensively coming into that game. I know that Aaron Donald had some rib issues, but they seem to be a step ahead all night long, 32 points. I mean, that's the best I think I've ever seen Aaron Rodgers play. I remember you said something about home field advantage. They look very comfortable out there, not so much for the Rams. But, yeah, very impressed. As far as Buffalo, I actually thought Baltimore would win that game coming in, but you know, you could tell Lamar Jackson's limitations are what they are. I thought all they asked him, all I would have asked him to do was make a few throws across the middle. You got the much better defense. Buffalo couldn't run the ball whatsoever, you know, and you can see the limitations of Lamar Jackson. This is probably as far as you're going to go with him. Buffalo concerned, no running game, and they still got it. Herculean effort by Josh Allen. The defense played well, and you know, couldn't be happier for the city.
Yeah, me and Jack have been talking about Lamar Jackson. We've been talking about Green Bay, and I really think that, you know, we talk about the superstars a lot. I think Buffalo just had the great game plan to shut Jackson down. They just sold out to stop him. I think Green Bay's defense played a great game yesterday. Aaron Rodgers didn't have great numbers, but the running game was working. The defense was working. He looked like, you know, he made the throws as he can. I think Josh Allen made a couple throws. In fact, they didn't even try to run the ball in the first half at all. They just threw the ball. So, yeah, I agree with you to a large extent. But I think we should look at the teams a little bit more than just the stars in those two games, because to me, both teams came in there with a game plan, and they both worked really well against the other teams.
Yeah, Leslie Frazier, the defensive coordinator for Buffalo, I noticed that people are talking about him, did an excellent job keeping Lamar in the pocket. Couldn't even, you know, I thought that maybe their tight ends would make much better play than they did. He kept that. He kept Lamar way uncomfortable all night. The Buffalo defense did really well. The Green Bay defense, yeah, it's much more improved. The physicality, you know, it really feeds off their offense, though. I don't know if he even had it looks like seems like Aaron Rodgers barely had any completion all night. I mean, he just
you know,
a step ahead.
Leslie Frazier was a former head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, and supposedly maybe a team or two is still interested in him right now, even though the positions have been filling up pretty quickly. I think the rules really have to get changed as far as interviewing coaches, because the coaches who are in the playoffs, they've got to give their full concentration to their team. They shouldn't really be going off on interviews. And especially if another team hires them, something is a little off that they're with one team and everyone knows that they're going to be leaving as soon as the season ends. I think there has to be a way where teams can't reach out for hiring until the Super Bowl's over. They can't contact anyone, and it shouldn't take that long to make a decision. I mean, as soon as the Super Bowl ends, and within a 2-week period, you set up a bunch of interviews and you make a decision. So I think guys like Leslie Frazier had a handicap because their team is winning. I just don't like the way the whole system's done by the NFL.
Right, and then their offensive coordinator, Brian DeBall, he's the favorite to get the Chargers job. I mean, he's done a great job developing Josh Allen. You know, I know that was one of your questions too. His completion percentage was 50 in the 50s when he started, and now it's up to like 75%.
But let's say he gets the Chargers job and the Bills are going to the Super Bowl. Where's his head going to be at? Is he going to be doing his Charger studying while the Bills season and their run is still continuing? I just don't like it at all. I mean, but I had my say on it. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you did bring up both home teams looked good. do the home teams have that big advantage? I mean, yeah, there's some fans there, but there's not a lot of fans there. I mean, you can actually hear the audibles by both offense and defense being called where you couldn't normally. So weather, yes, I mean, it's more comfortable. You can be in your home. You don't have to go and check into a hotel and hurry up and get to the field and go through things. And it's all strange. But do they have the biggest advantages they did before, Robert, when, the fans were there and you could hear them on the field during, when the play stopped or on the sidelines or when you came out in the second half? I mean, is that advantage still as big as it was in the past?
Oh, no, of course not. I mean, you got teams wasting timeouts when the crowd's loud and you get delay of games. None of that stuff is going on. But I can definitely tell it is a big advantage for these cold weather environments. Green Bay, look how bad I know Tennessee's been bad offensively, but they look way out of sorts. Green Bay just seems so comfortable up there. They're moving at their speed and their pace, and it seems like the opposition, especially as of late, they seem off. Remember Tampa years ago? They had a problem playing in cold weather environments, and then finally they got over the hump and won the Super Bowl in 2002. So yeah, it does. The weather really does have an effect for the away team, even though the opposition will never admit it.
Well, Tom Brady, if he has to play at Green Bay, if they should beat New Orleans, he's used to the cold weather from all the years in New England, at least mentally. Antonio Brown having played in Pittsburgh those years. But the rest of the guys, I agree with you, could be a real problem for Tampa Bay if they have to go to Green Bay in that weather. But it's so unpredictable, you could never tell. Remember when the Giants beat the Packers in the Super Bowl and Eli Manning adjusted to the cold better than Brett Favre that day? So you can never tell.
Right. Yeah, that was a great game. I remember that. Yeah, that was
even the game against Aaron Rodgers too, Jack, when they went to the Super Bowl for I think it was the second.
2011.
Yeah, and Plaxico Burress, he dominated that Green Bay defensive backfield. So let's get to head coach hirings. We know the Jaguars, they got their guy Urban Meyer. The Jets just got the former San Francisco 49er defensive coordinator. Their coaches are being fired at an alarming rate. I mean, Peterson, he gets fired. Offensive coordinators for the Steelers and other teams are getting fired. I think Seattle's was let go too. And it seems like maybe the style that they were running in Pittsburgh and Seattle wasn't what they ran before, the physicality of the running game as opposed to, the short passing game. What is your favorite head coach hiring so far, Robert, and why?
Well, I mean, like a proven winner like an Urban Meyer, there's going to be a learning curve because he's coming from the college game. I get it. He had a rough year the first year at Florida. Came back next year, won a national championship. You look at everything that Jacksonville has. He already said that I'm not going to be out here running around coaching every single position like a chicken with his head cut off. I'm going to hire some people who are more with the pro game here. He's very secure with himself, kind of like a Nick Saban. Don't mind hiring somebody that is smarter than him in a certain area. Look at Nick Saban in the college game. He hired the former head coach of Houston as the offensive coordinator. I think
Bill O'Brien,
not Rob. Who was it?
Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien. I thought you said Rob Bryan. No, Bill O'Brien. Yeah. But I think it's going to be fine. I think he'll work out. Now he's going to be there for about 5 or 6 years. Probably get to an AFC championship game. Maybe win the whole Super Bowl. You got Trevor Lawrence there, number 1 and most cap room. Got all those draft picks. He's got a clean slate. Worst case scenario, don't work out. He'll go back to TV, maybe get another college guy. He's only 57, so I really like that Urban Meyer hire.
I'm sure he had to discuss with ownership what they're doing with the number 1 draft pick. Yeah. Because Trevor Lawrence is a franchise changer. He changes the face of the franchise at the very least right off the bat. But Urban Meyer did draft Justin Fields. He brought him to Ohio State. He had influence as far as
Recruited,
that
yeah.
went. And I guess he's just saying the right things. Well, we're not certain yet what we're doing with the number 1 pick. Maybe out of respect to Justin Fields because he's had a prior relationship. But you kind of wonder, there's this tiny element of doubt. Could a team conceivably make a deal for that number 1 pick? Or does he have the authority, Urban Meyer, or was it understood that they have to take Trevor Lawrence? Because I can imagine an owner hiring Urban Meyer and giving him the okay to trade away that pick. Because I'll be honest, guys, if I'm the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars and I have a chance between Urban Meyer, Trevor Lawrence, I'm going with Trevor Lawrence over the coach. That's just my thought.
Yeah, and I'm sure that he's had those discussions before he signed the ink. Urban Meyer, he's known all these guys through the high school, these last 2 or 3 years. He's known them since they were in 10th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. So this may be and I see it probably being a Pete Carroll situation where he's going to knock it out of the park these first 2 or 3 drafts and just set them up for success.
Well, let me piggyback that for a minute. You mentioned that Urban Meyer, great college coach. There have been a lot of great college coaches that have come to the NFL and failed, Robert, including one of the best of them all time, Nick Saban. He didn't make it. Lou Holtz couldn't make it. Pete Carroll in the beginning didn't make it. There's been a lot that have tried to come into the NFL. It's a different game, Robert. You don't recruit your players. You have a scouting organization that, I should say, a scouting department that goes out, gives you what they think. The president of football operations is involved. The GM is involved. And, of course, you have your say also, and your coaches too. But you don't actually go face-to-face and sit in their household and talk to their parents and say, hey, Ohio State is the greatest college here. Come up and visit, and we'll give you a nice little tour with the cheerleaders and the pomps and the circumstance and the whole 9 yards of the university. When you have pro, is totally different game. Jimmy Johnson, he made it through. He got the Dallas Cowboy job, turned the Dallas Cowboys around. But there's been a lot of coaches that haven't made. What makes you think Urban Meyer will be able to do in Jacksonville?
Well, remember Nick Saban was a disagreement with the doctor from getting Drew Brees. He gets Drew Brees, maybe the rest is history. Maybe they win some Super Bowls. Maybe the Patriots don't win as many Super Bowls. So I would, disagree there. You look at guys like Barry Switzer, these guys that have quarterbacks in place. Now, it's tough for anybody if you don't have a quarterback. Some of these guys are just good coaches. They know how to delegate. They run it like a corporation. They really, manage the coaches and the assistants, and sometimes be like a walk-around coach like a Jimmy Johnson. Okay, I noticed the defense have some issues here. The offense is having some alignment issues. We're giving up too much in the deep game. Let me go up here and coach this and kind of go ahead and help out with the other coaches. So, plus you look at a lot of the college concepts now are in the NFL. So I think the game has changed over the past, even 10 years, if you ask me.
Good points. What do you think about Hassal to the Jets? Now, the Jets have been changing head coaches more than any other team practically. And, of course, the new system comes in, old system goes out. New system comes in, old system goes out. And that only affects, your squad. It affects everything, especially if you have a young quarterback. Of course, you're going to bring your whole staff in. Hassal already is bringing somebody over with him as far as the coaches go. He's going to have players that are going to want to come play for him when they're up on their contracts or in trades. He seems like a very fiery guy who really gets into the game. And the Jets need the culture to be changed for sure. He already said that Sam Darnold's the starting quarterback. So even if for some reason that, Lawrence falls, the Jets supposedly aren't going to take him. So what are your thoughts about Hassal? Do you think this is maybe the coach that can turn the Jets back into a respectable organization?
Yeah, I was looking at him, and he kind of reminds me of a Mike Vrabel a little bit. He was a former player. I think he was played tight end in college. A good communicator with the players, kind of like the coach from his name is slipping my mind, from Washington. And he's also bringing that zone block and running scheme over from Kyle Shanahan, so they're going to be able to run the ball more. Another team, a lot of draft picks there, a lot of money under the cap. So the more I look into a guy like Robert Saul, I don't know, I seem pretty optimistic. I wish they could have got a guy with head coaching experience, but the more I read into him, complete opposite of Adam Gase. He's hugging the players. Adam Gase, very defensive right off the bat. Very comes off as disrespectful, kind of like the Matt Patricia at Detroit. This guy's totally opposite. Kind of Ron Rivera's who I was trying to think of earlier. Kind of reminds me of Ron Rivera, and of course the other Mike Vrabel. Excuse me.
Right. And
you know what? One thing I want to say: whenever talk is meaningless, when you hear a coach say, Sam Darnold's my starting quarterback next year, all that basically means they're not going to use the second overall pick in the draft to draft a quarterback. The Jets have the 23rd pick. They could trade that with their second round draft choice and move up a little. And there are a few other quarterbacks on the board and have someone there go into camp technically as a second string quarterback, but in reality, they're looking to set up a competition for the future to find out what's going on. So Sam Darnold, I can't imagine him being secure. I mean, tentatively, he's their starting quarterback. That's all it means. I wouldn't take it at serious face value.
He needs to hold his breath until after that weekend in April.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to check him out the mini camp.
Yeah,
I can't. Sam Darnold's
needs to go golf that
absolutely
weekend and
nothing.
just check his phone every now and then.
Sam Darnold's done absolutely nothing for the Jets to make a firm commitment to him as being their quarterback. At most, they're allowing him to continue to hold on to the job, and it's a wait-and-see attitude as opposed to the job being his.
Yeah, I mean, to follow up on what Robert was saying, a commentator who was a former quarterback, played for UConn. He's on ESPN and stuff like that, and he's a regular there. He said that he actually played with Sal, and people that played with him say that he's an unbelievable communicator. Not only does he talk at the players, but he also lets the players have, a say in what's going on and ideas and stuff like that, which I agree with you, Robert. I think, you can be strict, but you can also be a player's coach. You don't have to be a rah-rah coach like in college. You can still be strict and firm, but if you can get the players' respect by thinking that they have something to do with it, or actually getting them involved, in the play scheme or the practices leading up to the games and during the games. If the coach is willing to listen to you out, he's at least going to get your respect. I think that's very important in the team where a lot of players, I from what I saw, didn't respect Adam Gase. They were very unrespected. They felt very unrespected by him. So I think you make a great point with it, Saul. Get to the Eagles and Peterson. The Eagles won the Super Bowl, a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Years back. And, normally when you win a Super Bowl, it counts for something. I think that the whole thing went south with Peterson this year. I mean, first, Vrabel leaves. I'm not Vrabel, but Wright leaves, his offensive coordinator, who did a great job with the Colts this year. The offense goes basically through him. And Wentz just had a terrible year. I mean, there's no other way to say it. He really took a step back. A lot of doubters now with Philadelphia. He's never really been healthy the whole year. He tried to make, put the team on his shoulders, make plays, holding on the ball too long. There has been dissension, we know for a fact, within the Eagles locker room about the way Wentz approaches the team and approaches the game. We know that for a fact because of the people we know. And it just blew up this year. I mean, here you have this. You got this kid Hurts that they drafted high, was only supposed to be there basically as an emergency backup to run trick plays, and he comes in and he does really well. I mean, he performs pretty good, leaving doubt in the Eagles' mind of whether Wentz is the guy. So it is said, now this is what I heard, it's a rumor, Robert, that Wentz is the reason Peterson got fired. What do you think?
Well, I did some reading up on this, and it seemed like the Philadelphia Inquirer, yeah, they were talking about this Howie Roseman. They've had 3 coaches in 8 years under him. He is they fired Chip Kelly with the winning record. They fired Andy Reid. He fired Andy Reid after one bad year. They fired Doug Peterson after one bad year. He's also in charge of the doctors. Remember, we talked about they have way too many injury issues over the past 2 years, way more than the league average, if you ask me. So he's apparently this power hungry guy that get in tight with the owner. He's worked under Lurie for over 25 years since he was in his early 20s. He's 45, 46 years old. So he has a lot to do with that. I did not know that prior to this week. A lot of this is coming out. So I'd give less blame now to Peterson. It seems like he was being micromanaged, something I don't have I've always had a problem with myself personally. I'm surprised he lasted this long. He'll probably get other job offers. Maybe Wentz, small town guy. Maybe he's lost his confidence. Maybe it's the heat of a Philadelphia market that's got the best of him. Do you trade him somewhere else? I don't know. Maybe talk to the Colts. Maybe talk to somebody like a Denver and see what happens there. But it seemed like this Howie Roseman, now he's had some success. You got to give him some credit for bringing in those players that won that Super Bowl. But it kind of sounds like the Bruce Allen situation in Washington with him and Dan Snyder, where he's the go-to guy and he's kind of wanting to micromanage everything and kind of on this power trip. And it took a while for Snyder to get rid of Allen, and now they're just now starting to turn things around in Washington.
The Eagle job is the worst head coaching job in sports.
Yeah.
It's bad. And we talk about prima donna wide receivers. Wentz is the one prima donna quarterback in the NFL. Reportedly, they would send in plays to him, Doug Peterson. He wouldn't run the plays out of spite. He'd go to the front office and he would complain about the head coach, meaning the head coach was getting undermined by the front office that would sometimes side with the quarterback. I had some knowledge of this. Joe Santoliquito broke the story a couple of years ago. And Joe was my successor as president of the Boxing Writers Association of America. I stepped down. He didn't beat me in an election, I could assure you. But Joe and myself are very close friends, very close. Before the story came out on Carson Wentz a couple of years ago, I knew about what was going down. Joe had told me in confidence, and it stayed in confidence, and it's still staying in confidence. But I knew something big was happening. And it showed real levels of immaturity to Wentz that people didn't know about. Joe got a lot of threats and all this blowback. But now people are seeing Joe Santoliquito was a couple of years ahead of his time, okay? He came out with a great piece of journalism on Wentz. Now we're seeing Wentz's immaturity issues. And he just wasn't relating well to even the guys on his team. I heard one story, one of the offensive linemen a while back wanted to talk to Wentz about something, a little problem. And Wentz said, I'll get back to you on it, meaning I'll get back to you on it very soon. Wentz sees him a couple of days later. Oh, by the way, what did you want to talk about? That type of thing. And Wentz has got talent. They'll take too big a cap hit getting rid of him. But it's a problem. But if they bring in the next coach to accommodate Wentz, it's not going to go over well in the locker room.
Well, if all that's true, we kind of get a sense of that. I would shop Wentz. I know he's got a big salary and everything. Sometimes you got to take the hit, and less is more. A change of scenery can probably do him good. And, there's a lot of these guys have these massive egos coming into the NFL. But if they know who's boss, they don't try that crap. If the owner through the general manager, through the head coach says, whatever he says goes, don't come to my office. I hate that open door policy. You get a lot of that in the NBA. Really irked me with the Lakers and stuff in the past. But that comes from the top down, or he wouldn't try that. If he would have to pay the consequence.
So one of our followers who also is on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Yeah, I can't disagree with him there on Josh.
As a Patriots fan,
twice, you know.
Yes, he would hate to see Josh Daniels go to the Eagles. So that brings up the next question. Who would really want, as Jack said, that's probably the worst job in the NFL. I think it might even be worse than Detroit. Because at least Detroit, if you win a few games, they're going to hail you, you know. But here with the Eagles, you won a Super Bowl. You lost your offensive coordinator. Your quarterback seems to be a little bit too much involved in himself than the team. It's in a chaos, especially with the last game of the season that brought a lot of bad press on the Eagles organization. So who would want that job, and who would be the best fit, you think, over there, Robert?
Well, if I am a young, like a Brandon Staley from the Rams, a defensive guy there, 37-year-old guy, who's the guy that played linebacker? I think he's helping out with the defensive side for the Patriots. He played for the Patriots. Now he's on the coaching staff. He was being brought in to interview. I don't know if I have notes.
Yeah, I think yeah. That's an advice.
Is it Ted Johnson?
I can't remember the guy's name now, but he was a really smart linebacker, University of Tennessee. He played linebacker for 8 years for the Patriots, and now he's with the coaching staff. If I'm like a coordinator or a first-year coordinator, a young college coach, Jared Mayo, thank you. That's exactly what he's being brought in as to be interviewed. If I'm a Jared Mayo, get the experience, even if you know it's only going to last 3 years, you're going to get canned. You get the experience putting together a staff, getting your feet wet. I mean, if they wanted to hire me, I mean, I'm pretty good at fantasy, and I'll probably curse out Howard Roseman the first day, but at least I'll know what it's like, Yeah. But if I'm an experienced guy, if I'm gonna like a be enemy or somebody, if I'm a hot coordinator, I'm passing that job. I'm sorry. If I'm a successful Matt Campbell in Iowa State, a head coach, if I'm a Dan Mullen in Florida, no, thank you, guys.
You only take that job if you don't have really any other options to be a head coach.
Right.
And you want to be a head coach bad enough, and you might never get another opportunity, and you're not in demand. Then you take that job, basically, because you're going to get paid regardless, even if it doesn't work out. But I can't see any coordinator, who has a future as a head coach with a really good, solid program taking the job. Josh McDaniel, because New England had a bit of an off year last year, you might think, well, maybe he might want to jump ship. But I think within the New England organization, there'll be a loyalty towards him and an understanding he's turned down other head positions, notably the Indianapolis Colt one after accepting it, that they'll take care of him at least with a nice contract as an assistant coach. So I don't think he's in a desperate position.
That would be a great story for the local radio folks to talk about, because him and Roseman, I mean, that is Weasel Guy and Weasel Guy. I mean, that would be a tire fire. It'd be great for us in sports talk.
Well, there's another
It'd be a disaster to be there, though.
When Josh
That's a tire fire.
When Josh McDaniel got the job, he had a previous head coaching job with the Denver Broncos. As soon as he got the job, he got into an argument with Jay Cutler.
What are the trading?
And he basically told Cutler, he didn't want to put up with any nonsense. He didn't have much patience, Josh McDaniel. And Jay Cutler, before he even took a snap, wasn't going to play for him. So it was like, I wonder him and Carson Wentz, would he baby Carson Wentz or just say, Josh McDaniel, Jalen Hurts is my starter, to heck with you.
Maybe he's learned from that situation, I mean, that was years ago, but it was an awful situation. I mean, Matt Castle, looking back on it now, that's who he's wanting to go after.
Well, guys, I mean, that's a different situation, because you're talking Jay Cutler compared to Carson Wentz, who's just got one of the biggest contracts for a quarterback. it's going to be hard to convince that front office that Jason Hurst is starting. And I think that's the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems right now they're facing. Either Carson Wentz had to go or Doug Peterson had to go, and they're paying Carson Wentz a whole hell of a lot more money than they are Peterson. And I think that played a major role.
Doug Peterson could have held on to his job, but when he met with ownership, he said, these are the guys I want. They were looking to fire some of his assistants. He wanted to promote them. But you kind of have to wonder, I don't know many years that Doug Peterson had left on his contract. I'm sure he had at least one. And these guys are thinking, the heck with it. Let them fire me. I'll collect my money for a year. I'm financially secure. I don't have to put up with this at this point. I'll stick with the job, but this is what I want in return. And if they're not willing to give it to me, I'm not backing off like at all. I'm telling them what I expect. And ownership didn't like what they heard from Doug Peterson. So
yeah, he wanted to advance like a 32-year-old assistant, but hey, Peterson been working with the guy every day. Maybe he was coming along and doing pretty well.
And supposedly they wanted to let Eagle management Frank Reich go the year before they won the Super Bowl, and Peterson went to bat for him and won. And they kept Frank Reich on the staff. They won the Super Bowl. Now Frank Reich's a highly successful, head coach for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show, I mean, that front office and that football field are two different playing fields for sure.
Yeah.
So we got, it's written in stone, Robert, right? Trevor Lawrence is going to the Jaguars. That's what everybody's saying. But do the Jaguars really have to take Lawrence? Can they take another quarterback? Can they get the guy from Florida? Can they get the guy from Ohio State? The one from Montana State?
Justin Fields. That's his guy.
Do they really need Trevor Lawrence? Or maybe do they need somebody in the offensive line? I mean, there's been cases where we've said, well, this guy is guaranteed to be the first-round draft pick, and all of a sudden they pick up an offensive tackle. So do they have to take Trevor Lawrence in the first round?
Well, I wouldn't. It's one of those things where you see a guy play in the playoff or you see him in the bowl game, and then you start to have a change of heart versus a full body of work. From everything I understand about Trevor Lawrence, this is like an Andrew Luck situation. I don't know if I would overthink the room and make a horrible decision and take somebody else. Now, he could get hurt in camp or something. He could get hurt. I don't know if he's going to do a combine or a pro day or whatever, but the guy was supposed to have been the number one. There were some draft experts saying that he would have been the number one pick after his freshman year in college. He's got the hours in. He's well advanced. I seriously doubt they're going to not take Trevor Lawrence.
If they don't take Trevor Lawrence and he turns out to be a great NFL quarterback, they never live it down unless whoever they trade him for is outstanding as well. They'll never live it down, the franchise. The only way I could see conceivably something like that happening, if the Jets flip-flopped 1 and 2 and gave them an additional 3 number ones, a second round, a fifth, like an additional 5 players, who are highly draftable. That's the only possible way I could see it happening. And then Urban Meyer takes Justin Fields and has 5 other starters, but even then I have serious doubts if anything like that could happen. Some people feel, well, what happens if Houston is willing to trade Deshaun Watson to Jacksonville? Now, Deshaun Watson is going to the Hall of Fame. He's outstanding now, and he's just going to get better, if anything. And you can't miss with Deshaun Watson. But consider this. Trevor Lawrence is going to be on a rookie deal for the next few years. Yeah. Deshaun Watson isn't. So for cap purposes, you're going to get hurt there. If they don't take Trevor Lawrence, like Rob says, I mean, what a mistake. It would really be overthinking everything.
That's true. But remember, San Diego Chargers took Ryan Leaf with their first-round draft pick.
That was the second overall pick in the draft. They didn't have a choice between him and Peyton Manning because Indianapolis took Peyton Manning.
Right. But from what they said, what I remember, they were taking Ryan Leaf anyway. So, I mean, I don't know, guys. We say if they don't take him and he's great, well, then they're not going to live it down. If they do take him and he's not great, that will send him back too. It's just an interesting question.
No, well, yeah, it's happened before in the 9 quarterback. I mean, everybody in the world thought that Houston was going to take Reggie Bush one year.
Yeah.
And they end up taking Mario Williams, and then the Saints got Bush at number 2.
Right.
That was a last minute, like, oh my God, they're really going to take Mario Williams over Reggie Bush.
He was the better pick, as it turned out, Mario Williams.
More consistent player.
Well, you know, some number 1 overall draft picks, it depends how good a prospect they are. Jamarcus Russell went number 1 overall to the Raiders, but that was an Al Davis pick. The head coach at the time, Lane Kifflin, he didn't want Jamarcus Russell at number 1. He didn't feel he was quite good enough. Jameis Winston went number 1 overall in the draft. Was he worthy of the number 1 pick? Yeah, he was worthy, but he wasn't the prospect that Trevor Lawrence is. So it's not a question of who's going number 1 in itself. It's how much of an impact that guy's going to be at number 1, how good that guy is at number 1. For every John Elway, Peyton Manning at number 1, you get some guys who are number 1 overall who you know they're not as good a prospect beforehand. And the question is, are they the best of the rest? So
right, 'cause every year it's not going to be a world-class talent. I mean, it's not always going to be LeBron or Michael.
I agree.
Now got to basketball, right? Like they said that Dabo Sweeney, anyone passing on Deshaun Watson is passing on Michael Jordan. That wasn't quite that was a little bit of an extreme, but the point is they let Deshaun Watson go till, I think, number 10 in the draft, or thereabouts. And that did turn out to be a mistake.
And the Bears kept their general manager, too, not to get, I know, they just, Brian Pace.
So, Robert, last topic for you to cover. Yeah. Of course, the only knock against Aaron Rodgers is that he only has 1 Super Bowl win. I mean, you got people like Jim Plunkett who have 2. Will Rodgers get that 2nd Super Bowl ring this year?
Well, if they get the right matchup. I think right now, even if Tampa goes, it looks like they're playing so well. I think they'll get there. If you get there, you got a shot. But I'm leaning AFC, whether it be Kansas City, which I think it'll be, but who knows, right? Or Buffalo. So I'm not ready to think to say that he's going to be able to win this whole Super Bowl, but I do think they're going to go to the Super Bowl this year.
Okay, great.
Listen, the quarterback can only do so much. Terry Bradshaw has 4 Super Bowl wins. We don't rate him ahead of Dan Marino, who has none. Okay,
right.
And this isn't like the NBA where a quarterback's the most important play on the field. But he only has so much impact. There's only so much he can do, you know. And Aaron Rodgers is an all-time great. It would be nice if he got the 2nd Super Bowl, but I don't think rating how great he is amongst the quarterbacks in history. Will it make a difference? Yeah, I mean perception-wise, but it's a tough go. They're saying the same about Drew Brees. Does he need the 2nd Super Bowl this year? And only one
had a top defense there. I think maybe top 5, maybe 2 years of the guy's whole career. I mean, he's never really had a defense protecting him.
Well, again, as we know, football is a very dependent on other player team.
Yeah,
probably the most in any sport. So, Robert, thanks again for coming in. We enjoy your visit every Sunday. Guys, go and check out Sports Scope. It's a great podcast he has over there. He has a Facebook page. And like I said, he's also on Twitter and different social platforms. That's Sports Scope, as you see up there with a K. So, Robert.
Spotify podcast too,
There you go, Spotify too. You can listen to him while you're in the car at work. So, guys, check him out. And, Robert, again, thank you for coming in. We enjoy your visit every day.
Enjoy the games, guys.
Take care.
Thanks, Robert. So there you go, Jack. Again, Robert Butler comes in discussing not only the games, but things that go around the games, which is why I really...
Yeah, no, it's always fun talking to Rob. You know, I looked at the trivia question. My picked Dolph Shay's 1955 MVP, which I was wrong at. I was wrong.
Right.
But that year, his team, the Syracuse Nationals, won the NBA championship, and he was a first-team All-Star. So it was a heroic try by me, but it came short.
Listen,
Bob said it was the answer.
Jack, to me, if you don't get the trivia question, you're all around it.
That's what you want, Mac. Either team wins the championship or you have no use for them. It's all or nothing to you, Mac. So even though it came close on the trivia question, it was a great answer, which most people wouldn't have come as close as I did. Because I didn't get it right. It was Bob Pettit instead of Dolph Shays. You're ready to just throw me out to the curb.
Jack, let's take our official timeout, the last one for the show before we get to the end. So we'll be right back, folks. Stick with us. On the other side, me and Jack will talk about today's games, break it down further, and maybe we'll even get to this day in sports history if we got time. So stick with us. We'll be right back after these messages, folks.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk, they will hear you every single time.
Howard killed. Yeah, well, Kyle's not here. Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's the first offense, right?
That we know of. Why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're on live Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm Mac with your co-host, the great, legendary Jack Hirsch. Well, we trying to get through all this sports here today, Jack, as we just saw yesterday. There are two teams waiting right now in the championship, Green Bay and Buffalo, waiting for the other teams to play today to see who they'll be up against. Checking on some of the comments here, we do have a lot of different things from Frankie. Frankie follow us all the time. As a former boxing writer, did you ever cover Robert Durant?
I'm not a former boxing writer. I'm a current one. Okay,
Yes.
too, Frankie. I'm a former president of the Boxing Writers Association of America. Funny thing about it, I've interacted, Frankie, with just about every big name fighter. Interactions, experiences. Roberto Duran is the one fighter I've never interacted with during his career upon his retirement. I went to Roberto Duran's fights. I went to the fight in 1972 when he won the world lightweight title from Ken Buchanan in Madison Square Garden. And later that year, I saw him suffer his first defeat at the Garden when he was beaten by Esteban de Jesus. And I was at the Garden when he regained the title late in his career against Davey Moore. I never heard a crowd as loud as I heard that night. The noise at Madison Square Garden was off the charts. And I kind of have a beef about his fight with Davey Moore. Let me say something, Mac. Davey Moore was a kid from the Bronx. He came up in the Bronx. He won 4 New York Golden Glove titles in the Bronx. He was New York all the way. Yet when he fought Duran at the Garden, the crowd was heavily pro-Duran. Can you imagine that Davey Moore went to Panama and they were cheering for him over Duran? Shame on New York that night. Shame on New York. Davey Moore was thrown into the meat grinder, took a beating. The fight should have been stopped earlier. And he said later that fight broke his heart. It was disgraceful what went down with Davey Moore that night. But kudos to Duran. He's a great trainer. And I saw Roberto Duran. He puts down, Frank, I'm a close friend with his son, an upcoming boxer, Roberto Duran Jr. I saw Roberto Duran fight a couple of years ago. I think it was at the Turning Stone Casino in New York. And he might be a nice person, but he's not the second coming of his dad, which no one is. Okay?
That's right.
No one is.
Greatest.
Okay, let's leave it at that.
I mean, pound for pound, and all the belts he captured, tenacious. What a warrior.
And Roberto Duran, an all-time great, moved up in weight. And keep in mind, his last great fight at his peak when he beat Sugar Ray Leonard, and he was never quite the same fighter after that, even though he would win a couple of more world titles.
Right. And like I said, I mean, if there's it could be up in my top 5 fighters of all time. I would definitely put Roberto Duran up in there just because of his tenacity. And counting
different eras. I mean, in all,
true. Very true. I'm just saying personally. If I was to sit down and if I had 5 fights I could watch, Roberto Duran would be one of those
fighters. Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely legendary. Manos de Piedra, hands of stone.
Yeah, definitely.
They call them.
So, Jack, let's talk about the games today, which are a little bit earlier than they were on last night. We got, of course, Tampa Bay versus the Saints, the 2 old gunslingers going at it, still playing at a very high level, still breaking records. Tampa Bay, as what we talked about with Anthony, I think position for position is one of the most talented teams, if not the most talented teams in football. The Saints have beaten. They're 2-0 against Tampa. Drew Brees, you mentioned Alvin Kamara. You're talking about, Thomas is a wide receiver, and they find a way to find different receivers too that you never heard of are catching touchdown passes. The defenses, I think, are pretty close. Sometimes the Saints defense can be smothering, sometimes not so much. Tampa Bay has a good front 7. Their defensive backfield is a question mark. What are your thoughts on the game today, Jack?
I mean, you nailed it, Matt. Mac, you could throw on Tampa Bay. It's hard to run against them. That's why I mentioned before with Alvin Kamara. If Alvin Kamara could run wild today, Tampa Bay's in trouble. And, it's so unpredictable. Like you said, New Orleans beat them in the 2 regular season games. The game one you could throw out the window. It was the opening game of the year. Tom Brady and all the pieces he assembled, they had to get used to one another. Okay? So in a way, that was like a preseason game for Tampa Bay. It was like getting to know you. So they lost to a New Orleans team that had been playing together, a lot in the past. But what alarmed me is their rematch at Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay was primed to win that game, and New Orleans completely dominated them. It was no contest off the bat. So you kind of wonder whether New Orleans just has their number. But if you're Tampa Bay, you could have a little optimism saying, well, they're peaking, they're gelling. They've got a major weapon in Antonio Brown all of a sudden. He was a reclamation project when they picked him up, but all of a sudden he's a weapon. He's on board. And the coach, even Bruce Arians, who didn't seem to want him in the beginning, now seems to like him a lot. And Antonio Brown is saying and acting the right way, saying everything is about team. It's not about me. And you wonder the two quarterbacks, the two ancient warriors, they're the storyline, Drew Brees and Tom Brady. Who's got more in the tank? Yeah. Drew Brees had the injury, and when he came back, he was so rusty for a couple of games. But now he seems to get it together, have it together. People were even questioning Tom Brady at midseason, but now he has it together. Tom Brady seems to have more arm strength at this stage than Drew Brees. It's a remarkable story. This is a 43-year-old quarterback. Yeah. Who on earth at age 43 could perform like this? But he can. But, there's storylines, little storylines, if we look carefully, that no one's really looking at. The New Orleans place kicker, Will Lutz, he's missed 4 of his last 7. And Sean Payton, the New Orleans Saints head coach, brought some other guys in for a little peek and a little look. Was it to motivate Will Lutz? Was it another reason? I mean, I don't know. He claimed Will Lutz may have been a little bit hurt. You just don't know. And we were talking about before a little while ago, Rob Butler, with assistant coaches, who I feel they shouldn't be interviewed after the season's over. Well, the Tampa Bay defensive coordinator, Todd Bowles, who used to be the head coach of the New York Jets, he's possibly in line for the Detroit Lion job or the Philadelphia Eagle job. Is that a distraction or what? Or did the Lions just hire a head coach? Did I maybe miss something? But I know Todd Bowles was a hot candidate for the Eagles.
I know the Lions got a GM. I'm not sure about a head coach.
Right. But if they got a GM, that decreases the chances of, Todd Bowles getting that job. I wouldn't think they would get a GM without him having the hiring responsibility, because that's not always, the best fit. Unless the Lions just want to departmentalize. They tell the GM, we pick the head coach. This is your area. Are you willing to accept it or not?
Well, the owners always have the final say in who the head coach is anyway. They have to interview with the head coach.
Unless it's a situation where they just give a head coach or GM full authority. Normally it would be a head coach. Urban Meyer's not going to take the job at Jacksonville unless he's able to run the football program, have full say.
All I'm saying, Jack, is that, when it comes down to it, of course, the person paying the person is the final say.
Yeah.
But they will definitely take the GM's suggestion to heart after they interview him first. One thing I wanted to add about that, I think I would give the coaching advantage to Sean Payton, too, and we don't talk about that a lot. I think Sean Payton is an outstanding coach. Arians, I'm not sure of yet. He did okay with St. Louis. He's doing pretty good with Tampa Bay with all those stars. But if you're talking about just pure coaching, I think Sean Payton has the edge there, too.
Well, I'm picking New Orleans to win a close game today, by a field goal or so. It's gonna be a close game. I mean, they're playing at New Orleans. I'm not sure what the fan situation is, what they're allowing in, what they're not. I just think New Orleans is, I don't want to say a more talented team, a more together team. Tampa Bay has all these great pieces.
Right.
Jones and Fournette at running back. I mean, that's about
Yeah.
as good as you can get.
Yeah.
Evans, Brown as receivers, even
Tight end.
Gronkowski's even a backup there,
Yeah. Very talented.
Very talented, but I just feel, with the Saints, I'll give them a little edge in this game, by a field goal. The Browns and the Chiefs, I know you're gearing towards a possible Brown upset, but I just think the Chiefs are primed, and I know the Chiefs have been in a lot of close games this year, but I think the Chiefs are going to win this game, decisively today. But we'll see.
The mark of a great team is whether it's close or not, you still win the game. To me, I mean, I don't care if you win by 50 points or 2 points. At the end of the year, you look at the wins and losses, and the one that won the most is the one.
Well, let me tell you something. A stat people don't realize when they talk about the one undefeated team in Super Bowl history, the Miami Dolphins. They went 14-0 in the regular season, and then of course they had 3 playoff games. They went 3-0. They won their 3 playoff games by a combined total of 17 points.
Right.
That's not exactly dominating.
Right.
Okay.
But
by
again,
17 points to 3 games. So, but like you say, as long as you win, that's the name of the game. Get the W. And
it doesn't matter how you win, whether it's a turnover.
But some people are feeling the Chiefs can be had this year based on their performances of not dominating. They've won a ton of close games this year.
I really believe that's a false narrative. I don't think that it really matters who wins by how much. It just matters if you win. The only reason why I give the Browns a shot at the Chiefs is because the Browns do things good that the Chiefs don't do good. One is stopping the run, their defense. Browns got the best running back duo in the league by far. And in the front line, who can get pressure on KC with their front 4. And if they just put in extra backs and make the Chiefs run the ball, even though the Chiefs have a decent running game.
Hilaire might be out. If Hilaire's out, that's going to hurt. That's going to put a lot of pressure on Le'Veon Bell.
Right.
Who, since coming to the Chiefs, he's basically been in a backup role as far as running the ball.
Yeah, he's been okay. He's not been what he was. But again, to me, the more you make a team drive down the field, the more plays they take, the better chance of them making that mistake. If you're going to give them the ball and let them score, on 3 bombs, that's crazy. So real simple, Jack. If you're going to beat the Chiefs, the Browns have the type of team to do it. I don't care if Buffalo gets here or not. I don't think you can outscore the Chiefs. You have to try to change the way they do the game to have a chance of beating the Chiefs. The only team that might be able to outscore the Chiefs might be the Green Bay Packers. They might be able to do it, I'm not sure. But I don't think the Buffalo Bills can outscore the Chiefs. I really don't, even with that dynamic offense they have.
Even if the Browns get a good pass rush on Patrick Mahomes, which they might, no one's better at Patrick Mahomes than rolling out and hitting an open receiver.
Agree.
And he's masterful at that.
And that's why that defense has to be almost changed for this week, where they're going to put in extra safeties or defensive backs and be able to keep Hill underneath and double team that tight end. It's going to be hard, Jack. I'm not saying.
And if Cleveland doesn't have a big day running the ball,
it's over.
I mean, I just can't see Baker Mayfield beating Kansas City the way I could see Patrick Mahomes. Even if the Kansas City running game isn't quite working, Patrick Mahomes could still find a way to beat you.
Agree. If the Cleveland Brown offense can't run the ball and control the clock, the game's over. It's just done.
And then there are little elements we don't talk about, like special teams and and so on. Look what happened last week when Cleveland played Pittsburgh. The first play of the game, Ponce, is a potential Hall of Famer, the center for Pittsburgh. He snaps the ball way over Roethlisberger's head. And Cleveland's given a gift touchdown right off the bat. And that set the pattern for the whole game. And before you know it, it's 28-0. Mistakes are being made. But Kansas City's too poised and too good for that to happen.
I mean, we don't know. Again, if you're talking coaches, Jack, I give Andy Reeves the nod there, right? I mean, you're going to think Andy Reeves right now.
Andy Reid, keep in mind, if you forget the Super Bowl last year, he's had some issues too. We kind of
But
forget that.
he's always been a winning coach. He's
Kevin
always
Stefanski's turned Cleveland around as the head coach. I mean,
first
I
year.
don't consider the head coaches to be the difference makers in this game.
Oh, I definitely do, Jack. I definitely do, because they know how to run that organization, and they've been there before. Experience is the best teacher, Jack. But anyway, great show today, Jack. Great job as always. Great guests as always. And folks, enjoy the games. We'll be back Wednesday with a huge show. We got the Philly sports guy. We've got Dick Weiss, a Hall of Fame writer for the NFL and the NBA. We've got the senior consultant of public relations at the Jets, Randy Lang, coming on. And plus, we'll have a guest host, our guy that's been commenting the whole
Mac,
show.
you're not producer Linda get all, the vast majority of these guests, so kudos to both of you.
Thank you very much. And we'll have Frankie.
I'm basically along for the ride. I get in the back seat, and you guys alternate the driving.
There you go. Frankie C will be with us co-hosting too, so we'll see him for as long as he can and see what he's got on our show too. So we'll see you Wednesday, guys. Enjoy the game and have a great day.